So I recently finished peak cartoon X-Men 97, and I gotta say, absolute cinema. This is what happens when creators really love what they're creating. You can really feel it as a fan. You know some geeks and nerds were in charge of this. The characters were done such justice, especially Scott Summers. They made him so cool, cooler than he had to be.
Hang tight.
Made him his own character, not just Charles Xavier's yes man. Removing the professor from the show was a great idea. It was really gave everyone else agency and character development that wouldn't be. I think it'd be harder to execute without the professor. Well, with the professor, I mean. Harder to execute with the professor in the picture. My only gripe with the story, no, I have two. I'll share one now and one way later. Is the cringe ass story with Jean and Wolverine. Just stop it already. They're married. They have a son. Okay, stop this. But back on track. They gave Scott some of the coolest scenes ever. Like, this was really amazing. And every fan of Scott, was just cheering at the same time watching this.
To me, my X-Men.
Another amazing character was Morph. Morph was a highlight of the series. He was so good. I had no opinion on him. I barely knew he existed before this, but how they utilize his character and make him like the cameo machine, bringing some of my favorites that doesn't make sense to have here, but just giving them a nod like Colossus, Psylocke, and Magik from Marvel Rivals, that's where I know them from, and mocking Mr. Sinister, amazing. The show really used him as really effectively while having his own personality. He definitely took a back burner compared to everyone else, but he was really fun. Seeing who he transformed into next was... Now, I love Nightcrawler, and I was disappointed at first about how they didn't have him, but boy did he pull up. It was the best scene in the show when he was fighting him and Wolverine.
No, mein Freund, nein!
Well, not the best scene, but one of my favorite scenes. His personality is so cool, and they gave him the rapiers, that all the fans know, this is just like a giant middle finger to Fox. It's like, what, we're supposed to wear leather scene, just, they aren't the shade of the show or anything. And you catch him praying sometimes, and just so great to watch his character shine through, I can be here all day, keep glazing everyone one by one, so the story I thought was really good. I thought it was going to be a wet noodle. I was super disappointed, and I was wrong. And I was happy to be wrong for the first time in a long time. It was the first episode made it seem like they were going that route and spending a whole lot of time on Sunspot. They were going to spend a lot of time on people like Sunspot and Jubilee that, frankly, I didn't care about, but now I do. They have this, giving the heavy hitters their own screen time, like Storm got her own character arc where she grows and evolves. Watching, she had this character arc where she loses her powers and then really sets off a cascade and a tone for the whole show, while giving smaller characters like Jubilee and Sunspot, like I've mentioned, like their own episode, for example, where they just grow, and he has a mini arc throughout the show. Another big good part of the show was the villains. I just felt it was menacing the whole time. Like Mr. Sinister shows up and shit went down and everything just goes haywire. Suddenly there's two Jeans and he wants their son, but they have to send him to the future and he's mind controlling the clone. And Magneto turning into a good guy. I could never have expected that, It really turns him into a good guy, part of the X-Men, without it feeling forced. Well, there is some tension between the group, but it's the good kind of tension that they were going for on purpose. And then everything just blows out of proportion. Master of Magnetism is back, and he's ready to actually end things this time. Like, this show does permanent things, which to me is so refreshing to the characters. going over the event horizon to the point of no return. Just Rogue getting revenge for Gambit and actually dropping Trask was so... I was like, oh my god, you know, I have my hands over my mouth multiple times this show. And that is amazing that this show is carried by every aspect of it, you know. The animation, which I will get into later, and the characters, the animation, the story, every aspect is like Atlas just holding this up. If there's nothing that really feels lacking in this, there is something here for X-Men fans. You know, there's something here for people who are not quite fans of X-Men like me, but watch the Fox movies. You can really appreciate a good show. The love triangles did have me cringing, like some of them just were like, why? And then they explain and you imagine not being able to, for example, touch anyone, and imagine not being able to hold hands with the person you like the most. And you kind of feel like almost everyone involved, you feel for them. Except for Magneto and Wolverine. Stop it. You're ancient. They're so old. This is so weird that they put the... I know it's part of the X-Men lore, it's part of the comics, but just fucking stop it at this point. We can't mention this show without the animation. It actually looks so good too. Look at this comic cover. Now look at this. It's just amazing what they were able to accomplish with this art style. It's so stylized to look like a comic, and it's unapologetic about it. Every scene is a spectacle to watch, especially the fight scenes. Amazing. And they aren't amazing just because of the art, but the choreography and how the fights carry out. Any fight scene is like this one right here. They just know how their powers work. Whoever's animating this knows, and you can feel it. The constant team up between members is another aspect of the show that just highlights it even more. The X-Men are a team, and these team ups in these fights prove that they are a team, and they've been for it. You know, you feel it. No two fights feel the same just because of the variety of powers and variety of who's fighting who at any given point. I loved it. Some parts of the show were underdeveloped, like Cable just shows up at some point and there's a huge reveal, and you know, it's fine, but they could have done some kind of more foreshadowing or an episode with just him. They just kind of thrust him into the finale, I felt like. I hope season 2, I have high hopes for season 2, not gonna lie. I'll just let it run its course at this point. But I hope they have people like Darwin. I like Darwin. I'm a Darwin fan.